You mentioned about expert panelists that will be
Yes.
there. Will they be there at the meeting or?
Yes, they'll be there at the meeting. In fact, the city of Vallejo has one of the most robust participatory budgeting programs in the world, probably. They have millions of dollars that they have allocated to this process, and kind of the leader of that was a woman named Marty Brown, and she's formerly from the Vallejo City Council, and now she's a consultant and expert, and so she's going to actually be facilitating a majority of the program. And then we also, Overfelt High School went through their own participatory budgeting process very successfully, so we're going to have a student leader talk about their experience from that perspective. And so yeah, there'll be actual people who can answer questions and then who can help facilitate conversations so we can start kind of putting more shape to this concept that's pretty large. Sure.
In the video, I noticed that it was almost like a science fair where they had the
Yes.
little trifold things up. So they were actually campaigning then for their ideas?
Sure. So imagine that we go over the next 6 months, there's a process where you can submit or generate project ideas based on some guidelines, and that those projects then get vetted to make sure that they're actually able to fit within the criteria that we have to meet. And then we'll have what's called neighborhood expos, right? So neighborhood science fairs where folks who put together these projects and they've kind of made it through the different filtering stages get to actually present like that, and then you vote. We want to make sure that people can vote in person, and we want to make sure that people can also vote using some sort of technology. And so we're working with both internal and external stakeholders to help get some resources for that. We were allocated the $100,000 for the entire project, but we don't want to use any of those dollars for like administration or other costs, right? We want you guys to own the total package of dollars. So we're really trying to work with other folks who have resources and are interested in this being successful.
Okay.
Yeah, Tina?
Okay, so on that note, as far as it not going to administrative costs, I'd like to know, is there an assumption though that, let's say, something wins, everybody votes for it, it's this one idea.
Yeah.
Is the assumption then that it will be executed in partnership with city staff, and are they going to be charging their time to the project?
No.
Or
I don't believe so. I think, okay, let's just say, for example, that any project that's submitted has to be a capital improvement project on city property, right? Then we would facilitate that happening, and you wouldn't, if it cost the DOT $5,000 to do the project, we would not subtract that from the $100,000, no.
where will it come from then?
I think that it will be able to just generate that from the existing work that's being done from the different departments, because there's an investment to make sure that these projects would probably be moving forward anyway. So like if we have to put in a stop sign will go in a different place because that was where the community decided, but that doesn't mean that that exercise isn't happening within that department anyway. So we don't believe that there will be a reduction of the $100,000 for admin.
Okay, can you just make that note, that that's a concern, because I know, for a fact that city departments, they have to look for funding sources. And so I just want to make sure that the $100,000, because that's a really good thing. If we can have the whole $100,000 and not have to worry about the staff costs, administrative costs, that'd be great.
Those are great questions, and I think the other thing that I should have probably started with is that this is an exercise and that it changes shape every day based on questions and input. So the other thing that will happen on the 27th is hopefully these questions and ideas will surface, and then we can make sure that we then work with the city manager's office and the different departments to have super clarity on all of those things, and that's why we are working with the attorney and all the other folks too. So yes,
Thanks.
sure.
Hey, Antonina had a question.
You mentioned about people having ideas and presenting them. So the people who have the ideas, is that going to be anybody in this participatory budgeting group?
Anybody who lives in District 3 can submit a project or an idea.
Okay, so that person usually is participating, is going to these meetings on the PD process. Is that, I'm asking that question, or do they just say, oh, here, I want to have this?
You mean like if you had an idea, what do you do with it?
Yes.
We're still putting some shape to that
Okay.
because we want it to be very clear, but I don't know the answer yet exactly about what it's going to look like.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Any questions from back here? Jose?
I know this process is evolving, but I hope that it will also include the element of volunteer contributions to supplement whatever city staff costs may or may not be. An example, a few years ago, the North Side did a tot lot through a partnership with the city and an organization called Kaboom. So we were able to leverage volunteer manpower to supplement the cost of the equipment and so forth. So.
Absolutely, that's definitely a consideration that we'll have to take.
Any other questions from around the table?
So I'm just going to get into a little bit of business to make sure that we have a stellar event on Tuesday. Just to give it some context, I mean, everyone's going to be watching to see how District 3 approaches this and how successful we are, because they're going to realize that they wanted to do it. And so it's going to be really important, especially to the point that Jose just made, and what Pete reminds me about every day, that this is all about a volunteer process, right? And it's all about the residents of District 3 figuring out how they want to participate in this exercise, because that's going to determine the breadth and scope of which everyone in the community feels like they were part of this process. So we have and have distributed to most of you, and if you haven't received it, please let me know, a trilingual flyer in Spanish, English, and Vietnamese. We also want to make sure that the usual players who come to these events are there, but we really want to reach out to folks who are usually marginalized or not part of this process. And so it's very important that we are thoughtful about how we're doing the outreach. We'll have translators and interpreters with headsets at the meeting so that everybody who's there can participate. And as I mentioned, our goal was 150 people. And so what we'd like to, I guess, challenge you with or invite you to think about is getting 5 people from your neighborhood to the event on Tuesday. And so I don't know if folks want to talk about or raise their hand to say if they're coming, or what the experience has been like talking to people about it. Do you feel like you have the tools besides this flyer needed to get the word out? We're doing as much as we can from the office, but you know, organizing really comes down to relationships, and so that's the power that y'all have.
So when you say RSVP, because it's just hitting me that someone did ask me how they can RSVP or register, is it just to email you?
My preference would be to have numbers just so we can account for food and material, but no one has to RSVP. People could just show up, right? So we're probably at, like, I would say we've got close to 80 commits right now, so I think we're getting close to the number. But we're preparing for 150, which was a little bit of a stretch, but we think we'll get close. Okay. Who's gonna be there on Tuesday? Awesome. Awesome, that's okay. Okay, and who can invite someone to come with you to that? Okay. You need more flyers? So I can do 2 things. I can email you the flyer, or I can make copies in the office, and you can come pick them up from us on the 18th floor. Okay. Okay, and I did bring some Vietnamese English too, if you would like to take those
Email
with
would
you
be
as well.
good too, because we could post in our different communities, like where I live, they have a thing where you can post and it reaches all the
Would you be
residents.
willing, Joan, to send the flyer out to everybody? Or
Yes.
is that, okay, so Joan will send the flyer out in the next 24 hours to everybody in the 3 languages, and then you can use that to continue to get the word out.
And then I know a lot of us are on Nextdoor, and if you can post it to Nextdoor and ask people to forward, that would also be
I
helpful.
may have already done that, Nextdoor and Facebook.
And
So
if
I
you-
might already have a soft copy, but let me double check when I get back and
Great.
if not, do it again.
And I think even if you have sent it out to your different networks, to do a reminder again sometime this weekend or on Monday, we're going to try to do that just because people are busy and life happens, so we want to just emphasize that it's happening.
We also have an event of about, 160, 200 people on Sunday. That might be a good place for you guys to.
That would be
Give
great.
us a stack of these to hand out at that.
Okay.
Okay.
What is the event?
It's the Halloween.
Oh, perfect.
Mix
Yeah,
it.
okay. So between now and Tuesday, folks comfortable doing a little bit of outreach and hustling to make sure that the room is filled on Tuesday? Okay, if you feel like you need any tools and information that you don't have, please let me know, or anyone on the staff. We'll make sure that you have what you need. And then the last thing is that we need volunteers, and we need volunteers to do some very specific roles. So part of this, the program on Tuesday, we're going to do small group facilitated conversations. and we need to have a table captain and a table scribe at each table. And you'll get very clear, simple directions. Basically, it means help facilitate a conversation, make sure that everyone gets to participate, and make sure you're taking accurate notes. It's stuff that you guys do every day. So we need 10 captains, 10 scribes, and then we need an expert timekeeper. You came up, although if you're going to be late, I don't know about that because we think you're...
Let me talk to my boss, maybe I
Okay.
can leave early.
Oh, yes. Raul can talk to your boss if she says
Oh, my God.
And then we also thought it would be nice to have 2 of you at the sign-in table so that when people come in, there's an interaction with you and the neighbors in D3. So is anyone here willing to be a table captain?
My God, I want to jump at everything. So what would be entailed by the timekeeper? Would it
The
be?
timekeeper
say, like-
needs to be someone who's confident, being aggressive with signs, letting people know that they're coming upon their 2-minute, 1-minute, 30-second stop warning. So you'll have a sign
I
and you
can
just
do
need to
that.
sit right in the front. I just saw 3 hands going up right here. Let me see. Jenny, Kimberly with the I first.
Slot the Y in the eye.
Why first, then I?
Thank you.
And Antonia.
And Antonina. Anyone else want to be a table captain? Bob, okay. Awesome. We also have youth volunteers who are going to be there from the different high schools in District 3, so it's going to be a nice combination of residents.
We should point out
Yeah.
that these guys, you got to be there at 6 for training.
We start
No,
at
it starts
6,
at
so
six.
we'd
Oh.
actually like
Oh,
people to be
5:30?
there at 5:30 if possible, because we want to just do a little group up with the table captains.
Is it okay if I get there
That may
just
be,
before 6? Oh,
That
sorry.
may be a problem for me then, because I've got a photo shoot with the Irish president till 5:30, but I'm
If
gonna
you want to
shoot
do
straight
it,
over
I
after that.
can prep you in advance, so that's fine, not a problem, we can make it work. What about table scribes? This is note taker part, if you prefer to not talk and write, this would be your space. Anyone want to participate in that role? No scribes?
What are, actually writing or can you type?
You can do whatever you want, we just basically want to be able to have a summary of what the conversation was at that table. So then when people ask questions like Tina just did, then we're able to populate them and figure out how to answer them as we leave the meeting.
Okay, only thing, let me do the eye rolling.
Oh, yes, you can totally do that. Joan, you said you would do?
Yes, I will
Okay.
be the timekeeper. I will arrange for somebody to cover the phones for me so I can leave early.
Perfect. And does anyone want to work at the sign-in table?
Can I work at the signing table and be a table captain?
Yes, you can.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then I want to do that too.
Okay, so I saw, what, Rudy, Ginny, and Antonina?
Antonina.
Okay. Great.
So we're done by 6 when this starts, to go to the tables.
Exactly, exactly. Yeah.
We might
Also,
have one of you hang out for the late stragglers.
for the late stragglers, yeah, but we can figure out how to make that work, yeah. If you know anybody that you think would like to volunteer and isn't here, just connect them to me and I'm happy to find a spot for them. Yeah.
So are the table captain's job basically to kind of facilitate the conversation?
Right, so we'll have prompts, right? There's basically a couple of questions that we would like people to reflect on or answer, and there'll be some handouts. It'll be very self-explanatory, but we'll also make sure you're very prepared and comfortable so you know what's going on.
Well, if you hear from Sammy Mansour that she's coming, I think Sammy would make a great table captain.
Okay, what neighborhood is Sandy from?
McKinley Benita, it's S-A-M-I, sorry.
Okay.
M-O-N-S-U-R.
Are you-
Yeah, she's really good.
Okay.
Are you gonna, you wanna be table captain?
Wherever they need me.
Okay.
So if
Yeah.
we fill up table captains, I'll be a scribe, they're going to plug me
Yeah,
in wherever
Pete-
needed.
yeah,
So,
Pete sold.
There's Dee, she's on the neighborhood commission.
Mm-hmm.
Be Berrigan.
I don't know how to reach her. Well, I have her cell phone number, but I don't feel, it'd probably be better if you call her Jean.
Sure,
Or Pete, Pete's tight with her too.
Okay.
yeah. We
We'll find people.
can, yeah. I think we won't have a problem finding people. We just wanted to emphasize that this is your process and your project, and we wanted you guys to have your face present as much as possible.
I'll reach out to our board also and see if any of them want to be table captains.
That would be great, that would be great. Any other questions, ideas, concerns? we're really excited. We hope you are too. It's going to be a really interesting next 6 months, but I think the result is going to benefit not only District 3, but hopefully it will lead to something that becomes citywide and something that's just a way that we do business in San Jose.
Okay, so I do have one question. I noticed in the video, some folks that were talking about some of their preferred projects, they were noted as a Parks Committee, Transit Committee. So as you're shaping up the process, is it designed that there would be groups of projects, that maybe individual projects would be vetted amongst kind of larger
Categories or
size- yes.
themes? Yes, how that looks, we're not sure, but there will definitely be like projects that fall into categories that help us filter and make logic out of all of the ideas. Yeah.
And then we'll duke it out.
Yeah.
Since this is a budget thing, how are we going to be finding out what a proposed project might cost? For example, if I've got a triangle of dirt near my house and I want to turn it into a mini park,
Sure.
there's some costs there.
It's a great question. So what we're doing right now is we're working with various city departments to basically populate a list of how much does a stop sign cost, how much does it cost to paint a curb red, how much are, other capital expenditures, so that people actually have an idea about whether your project proposal is like pie in the sky or actually could be something that falls into the parameters of the project.
Add to the list how much for a new streetlight.
Yes, I have that number, and it's a lot.
Yeah.
But yes, that's exactly right. We
There's
got a list.
neighborhoods where they put in the new bulbs,
Mhm.
where because the bulbs don't cover as wide of a territory,
Yeah.
there's now dark gaps. David has one in his neighborhood. And so I've been talking to them to try to come up with a process
Sure.
for that. Because people are gonna start complaining that they need a new street light on their street because the lights change.
Street lights are on the list of, I asked DOT for what are the top 10 kind of traffic calming investments that they regularly spend money on, and that was one of them. So we'll have that information.
Man, I had a question in the back of my head and it's just gone. But maybe I'll think of it later.
Okay, yeah, any questions, ask anyone on staff, but feel free to contact me if you need anything, and then Joan will send the flyer out in 3 languages, and we'll have a fantastic kickoff on Tuesday and go from there.
I just
Yes.
thought of my question.
Yeah.
So, say for instance, somebody had thought about something like a park bench at a bus stop. Would you have to coordinate then with VTA since, or is the city responsible for benches at bus stops, or shelters rather?
No, I think that's probably VTA, but it would probably depend on where it was located. So there will be some where there will be some overlap, and those are areas where we're gonna have to really think about, given the amount of money we have and given the lack of overhead support that we have, because we just have the capital dollars, we're gonna have to really be thoughtful about
Who's willing to
who's
work
willing
with
to
us?
do what.
Okay.
Mm-hmm,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, I think that was very productive. Any other questions from anybody as far as the process? Tina?
So this is just something else to kind of tuck in the back of your head.
Sure.
You brought up the stop signs, for example. So I remember being in one of the city council meetings, and there was a comparison between how much it cost the city of San Jose to install a stop sign versus the city of Campbell. And the difference was, it was staggering, in my opinion, So I'm just wondering, is there, I'm not even sure what my question is, but I just want to point out that if there's such a huge difference and we can get some cost savings by emulating what other cities do, that would be a really good exercise to maybe, here's the idea and we're going to benchmark what it costs other cities. You know what I mean?
I do, and I think actually that's a really important point that you raised, because in addition to just figuring out how you guys want to spend the money, we want to figure out how you want your government to look, right? And so this exercise is going to continue after 6 months, because I think those questions and those ideas are probably going to inspire you to maybe do more research and make recommendations to the council or to our office about how the city can be, more effective as a government. So, yeah,
Thank you.
sure.
I thought I saw a hand raised further down. Kimberly, maybe? No?
I do have a question. You mentioned it's going to be a crazy 6 months. What happens after this first workshop?
A few things. One, we're going to be providing folks when they leave on Tuesday with a website and a Twitter hashtag basically two tools where folks can start populating ideas, and then we can start capturing them here. And then we may or we may not, kind of depending on if we are able to get it together by Tuesday with some details regarding the next date and location for a meeting, because we want to make sure that everyone has a clear understanding of what the next steps are, but we also don't want to feel rushed and do something that's not going to be helpful for everybody. And so that's where we are right now.
Well, we'll let Jose go first.
So, just wanted to know, is there a target month where the voting might actually?
Yes, so we need to be wrapped up by April, because what happens is, and then we start the next fiscal year here at the city, and we want to be able to demonstrate that we had a successful pilot, and then we want to advocate for more money to do again in the next year. And so I would imagine that voting will happen in March, and then whatever projects are selected would be finalized and announced at that point.
Is that enough time? Is that enough time to be able to say, okay, gosh, it was a success, you know, we're geniuses, wonderful, let's do it again, let's make it $500,000. Budget time, mayor's budget goes out in March.
Right.
Is that enough time for us to say, we want more money because we did it so well?
I think it's just the reality of the timeline that we're under, and I think that through the different phases of the project between now and April, we will definitely be demonstrating that it's successful,
Okay.
and then be able to start whatever is appropriate in terms of advocacy for the next fiscal year allocation.
Okay, thank
And the
you.
mayor's also close along this process with us,
Yeah.
so he's watching how it's, how everything's gonna be folding out, so.
And his staff has been very helpful. In fact, actually, to your point specifically, they have some unallocated dollars to help with technology and things like that. So that's why we really are able to hold that $100,000 for your project in provision.
Okay, so my question relates to basically the end of the process when we're voting. I agree with what you said, that it shouldn't be just in person, there should be some kind of technology. My only suggestion would we find some way to avoid stuffing the ballot box?
It's a great question. So this goes into the whole technology piece, right? Which is why we're trying to find partners who have done this before. To some degree, things are going to have to be on the honor system, right? Because anyone who's 15 or older can vote. But we do want to put some parameters that would be able for us to figure out, like if, Tina decided to get, Vendome to vote like 5,000 times on one thing, because you can look at like IP addresses, and there are different technological tools that will help us to do that, but I already can tell you it's not going to be perfect. But we also want to be very conscious of the fact that this process be legitimately democratic and fair. So we're trying to balance both of those things.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I feel good. Anybody else have any comments or suggestions? Great job, Jean.
Do you have anything you want to say?
Did you mention about the opportunity that Osh's community has?
No, I didn't.
So it's already, the opportunity has already presented itself for another community to take advantage of participatory budgeting, and this is in District 2. For 13 years now, I think it is, they've been fighting over an environmental regulation that was supposed to monitor air quality that never ended up happening. And so, to the tune of, there was a lawsuit going on to the tune of about $1 million is what the community is going to get now. And it's not for the entire district, it's for the community that was going to be affected. It's a good part of the district down there. And the sort of the fair process, as opposed to just put that into, the decision of the council member or the mayor of the city, was to use participatory budgeting. So Osh will have a representative from his team at our first meeting to kind of see how this kicks off and see how they can mimic it. But this was interesting to me because this isn't just necessarily through the budget process. This is now some dollars that are coming into the city specifically around an incident in a community that was being affected, and as opposed to just a few decision makers. It's going to be the community participating just like we are here on where those dollars go. So I think it's already sort of this idea of participatory budgeting is already picking up steam, and in more ways than just using it for the budget process. So there may be some other opportunities that we can look at this as well.